Now, for more insight, we're joined live now by CTV military analyst, retired Major General David Fraser. Good afternoon, David. Let's start perhaps with these retaliatory strikes. You may have heard a few seconds ago comments from Syrian officials say that the U.S. is fueling conflict in the Middle East in a, quote, very dangerous way. Iran saying that they're a strategic mistake. What do you make of those statements coming today?
Well, I think the United States has responded after 160 attacks on their people, and most recently the tragic deaths of the three American soldiers. As a result of that, they had to respond, and they've responded proportionally by going after and teletyping their attacks against command and control and logistics organizations, including the Iranian Guard. But not going after Iranian leaders themselves. So I think it was a proportional response to escalatory attacks on them over the last weeks, ever since the 7th of October, led by Iran behind all of this. And so I think the Iranians have to take ownership of this, and the next moves will be up to the Iranians. If they want to attack, they will be getting more American attacks against them.
Now, the adage goes that it does take two to tango. The question now is, when we're hearing the statements from the European Union's foreign policy chief, worrying about, as he put it, an explosive escalation in the conflict, how much of a powder keg situation are we in right now? Or when we're hearing from Iran and the United States that they don't want a regional conflict and to be at war, can we hold both sides true to their word there?
Well, I think, this is the second and third orders of effect of the 7th of October when Hamas attacked into Israel. Every militant group out there will take an opportunity to prosecute their political aims. And we've seen that in the Red Sea, in the Hormuz Straits. We've seen it everywhere, Hezbollah. But, what has struck me is that there has been, as odd as it may sound, a degree of restraint about all of this. And this recent attack where they killed the three Americans, and the response is really at the tip of the spear before we go into regional conflict. I don't think people want regional conflict, but at the same token, they can't control it because militant groups can actually drag in countries like the U.S. and Jordan and other countries into this war. And as we've seen, look at what's happening with Iraq and the political situation there. So you can't control wars, and this is an example where we are. That's why it's so explosive.
You mentioned Hamas as much as the other pieces on this chessboard here. Now, we are seeing reports that Hamas has resurged in areas of Gaza where the IDF has moved on from. Now, does this potentially show that there's a tall order for Israel to accomplish its stated goal of wiping out Hamas if they move on, and then they're seeing police and also people giving out food and aid that are from the government that is Hamas coming back to regions that have already had forms of conflict move through?
Well, Andrew, it's a good point because, the war objective of destroying Hamas completely evades description and definition, and the Israeli prime minister has never defined it. You can't destroy an ideology, and the more people you kill, and where are we now? 26,000 killed, 27,000 killed. We're creating more Hamas fighters, and it's just like a balloon. You can squeeze the balloon, but it pops up elsewhere. So they're now at the bottom of the border with Egypt, and they're still fighting where there are millions of people. Fighters will get in behind the Israeli Defense Force and start fighting there. You cannot eliminate this by just killing people on the ground. Ideologies will live on.
Now, you were correct. It's over 27,000. In fact, it's 27,238 people that have died in Gaza since the start of the war, based on numbers out today from the Gazan Health Ministry, and 107 people that were killed in the last 24 hours. I bring that up because we're looking at what this is taking place in the siege of Gaza right now, and the comments from the Israeli government that after Khan Yunis comes Rafah, where there's over 1 million people that have taken refuge trying to get away from the bombardment throughout the territory. From an operation standpoint, when you have that many civilians, how can a military ensure to minimize casualties? And is that possible with that many amount of people that are trying to escape from violence and are in such a concentrated area?
Well, quite frankly, it's impossible to assure civilians when they push them right up against the border. The density of the civilians there, and with the IDF are going after the Hamas fighters, we should expect a lot of innocent civilians to be killed. It's almost mission impossible for the military commander to prosecute military operations against a bona fide enemy when you've got 1 million civilians squeezed into that little area of Gaza. So, it's not going to work. It's going to end up in a tragedy and a lot more commentary about, what are the war objectives here when innocent people are dying.
Mission impossible, mission seemingly sounding almost critical there. David Fraser is a retired Major General. He's of course, CTV's military analyst as well, and we do thank you as always for your time, David.
Andrew, thank you.